Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Howie Talks Horticulture podcast. My name is Howie. This is also my friend Howie. Howie, how are you?
I'm good, Howie. How are you?
All right, Howie. Today we're going to talk about ficuses or Venus flytraps. Howie, why don't you go ahead and tell the folks at home why you shouldn't buy a cactus?
Because they hurt when you fall into them.
That's like the whole reason.
They're very prickly.
Yes, they are.
But actually, that's completely a lie. Welcome to
the
Gameday podcast.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the cactuses not being prickly. I was like, what do you mean it's a lie?
No. This is not a podcast about plants. This is the Gameday Breakfast podcast. My name is Spencer. This is my co-host Daryl. Neither one of us are named Howie or Howard or whatever the hell else you want us to be named.
So if my name was Howard, I would absolutely go by Howie.
Yeah, I mean, G-Eazy's real name is Gerald, so I understand why he goes by G-Eazy.
Yeah, because I get that too, and the reason I know that is because at the end of his song "Opportunity Cost," he has like a voicemail from his grandma, and she calls him that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I believe it. Like Macklemore's real name is Ben, but yeah, so
world.
But yeah.
Well, we had a late night Saturday night because of one special game in Dallas.
Yeah, that was that SMU and Tulsa game was that's the game of the year so far. SMU had some magic in this one.
It just goes to show you that you don't necessarily need a top 10 matchup to have fun. This is one of the great things about college football is that it just has these moments. It creates these moments, even whenever it's not necessarily, a high stakes game for like a play, with like playoff caliber teams or playoff implications. Just sort of teams that, SMU's 5-0. There's stakes there.
They're 6-0 actually.
They're 6-0 now, of course.
Yeah.
I just meant like at the time of the game they were 5-0.
Yeah.
They're making a good run at being a pretty highly ranked team this year. Them come back. What was the score going into the fourth quarter? It was like 9-31.
It was 30-9. Tulsa had the lead, and SMU came all the way back to force overtime, and then they went to 3 overtimes and were scoreless in the second overtime, which was insane because
I've never seen that before. A scoreless second overtime.
I've seen scoreless overtimes before, but it's usually the first. Like, I don't think I've ever seen like a second or third overtime be completely scoreless, but it's because SMU's running back Xavier Jones, who was kind of their bell cow during that game, just getting everything done for them. Like everybody in the city of Dallas knew it was going to number 5, like every time they lined up to like hand the ball off, and he got the ball punched out and Tulsa took over, but then their kicker had already missed. Their starting kicker had already missed a couple field goals, so they put in their kickoff kicker who had never attempted a field goal in his life.
Oh, did that really happen?
Yeah.
I knew that they were having trouble with kicking. I didn't realize that was his first try ever.
When he missed that one, that was his first field goal attempt in his career. I don't know if he kicked field goals in high school or not, but being a member of Tulsa, that was his first, and he missed it. So we went to triple overtime, and I think he missed another one when Tulsa had the ball, and then Shane Buechele threw that touchdown pass to James Prochet, which was an insane catch.
Big time.
Yeah, so it was a great game. I was actually
as a side note, Big Dog, you want to back away from your mic about like an inch or so?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're just breathing on it with your nose.
Yeah, I
you're
do
good
that
though.
Sometimes.
It's good. I do the same. I get like right up on it. It's just you have to
some shit like this or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like in your ear.
Yeah.
But I mean, big props to SMU overall, just because especially their defense, because when you have a moment like that where the momentum of the game is like shifting in your direction, and then out of nowhere, a fumble in overtime happens. I mean, that's a panic mode thing. Like that is a panic mode catalyst that's going to make people lose their focus and sort of start to get into really in their heads about things, and you just got to give big props to the defense for coming out, forcing the 3 and out. I believe they got a sack right before that field goal, didn't they?
I believe so. Yes.
Very impressive that they would come out like that, because in my mind, as soon as I saw that fumble, it just takes the air out of you.
Yeah. I was like, oh, game over. Okay, like I thought the game was done.
Yeah. Overtime, whenever it's just assumed you can walk down and and kick it, but I mean, great job of the defense. To go ahead and stand in there. And what a pass the end of the game, too. Did you see that throw?
Yeah, I saw the throw and the catch. James Prochet, that dude's a beast, man.
Yeah, that's one of those throws where you just put it in the bucket out of bounds and just trust that your guy's going to keep feet in and just go out to get it,
Yeah.
One of the prettiest passes in football.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. And also, I want to give a quick shout-out to a bit of a fan that we have on Instagram. I believe her real name is like Allison Christensen or something like that. I was talking about the podcast on an SMU page, and she follows and listens to the podcast now. So, Allison, if you're listening, I got you.
Thanks so much for joining the show, Allison.
Yeah. But yeah, I was actually watching the game on my phone in the parking lot of the casino in Vinton.
Nice.
Because my mom went to go get like a free gift that they give out if you like have spent a certain amount of money there, and me and Brianna just sat in the car, but it ended up taking longer, and like we finished the game while she was in the casino. So
there really is something magical about like being with somebody and they take forever, but you have something to do.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, fine.
So it's like, oh man, it's like the perfect, like the stars align for you to just kill time while you wait for them to finish their business,
Oh, for sure.
Big fan of that.
Sorry about the little bit of background noise. My dogs are walking through my kitchen right now.
Didn't even hear anything.
Yeah, well, if it comes through in the audio, I apologize.
But yeah, man. So that was one heck of a game. I mean, just to score 21 points in the fourth quarter and to have your defense come out and keep giving you the ball back. I think Tulsa, to a certain degree, might have thought, and that's one of the dangerous things about being a team that's up by 21 points. Is you just think,
oh, we got this.
You're in the fourth quarter, like, yeah, we got this. We just have to sort of, keep them at bay. But whenever you have a team come roaring back on you like that, you have to just put your foot you have to be able to step on the neck, You have to be able to put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I mean, SMU would have won the game in regulation if it wouldn't have been for they missed an extra point earlier in the night. It would have been 31-30 final score. So the entire reason we went to overtime is because SMU's kicker missed an extra point.
Okay.
Yeah,
I will take it. That's
makes the game better.
That. Yeah, for sure.
That's like the one time I'll take. Oh, you messed up. It's gonna make the math weird. But right. Look, we
now they lost. Then it would have been very
Yeah, but very
devastating.
It was almost like the perfect storm of them doing stuff, of how the score ended up, because it was 30-9, right? So Tulsa had scored traditionally. I think they had they had touchdowns and field goals, obviously, and just SMU scored sort of non-traditionally because they missed an extra point. So instead of it being them having 10 and going to 17, they went from 9 to 16, and then you go from 16 to 23, and then 23 to you go from 23 to 30, which is how they ended up tying the game. But yeah,
just all the stars aligned to sort of make that just a really fun, really fun night.
Yeah,
that's one of those games you kind of wish you could have just happened to have been at.
Yeah, I
'Cause I'm sure it was electric in the crowd.
I wish the Magic would have continued in Dallas for the game that happened in the not very far away the next day, but that's another.
Lucky for you, my man. This is not an NFL podcast, so
For sure.
you don't have to go down that road.
I don't. But
Let me know your thoughts on Auburn teetering out against Florida.
That game went the exact opposite of how we thought. I feel like me and you both genuinely thought that Auburn was gonna run in there and just run all over them. But Bo Nix had a bad game, and Florida's defense is for real. So
yeah, well, and see, that's sort of what I was. To me, it was sort of a which is which. Is it Florida has a good defense, or is it that Bo Nix it just laid an egg? And it's sort of tough to say. I mean, Florida's defense has been fine. I mean, they've averaged probably about letting up about 16 points a game all year. So I mean, they're right about the average of what the SEC is doing right now. But I think Bo Nix definitely. I don't want to say that the hype got to him, but I think it's easy if you're coming in, you got this whole story behind you about being this, not alumni, like second generation Auburn quarterback. There's a lot going for you right now. I think it's easy to go in to a hostile environment like that and get a little overconfident, and maybe second guess yourself. Which is, I mean, he's got 3 picks in this game. He passed for less than 50%. Not really a whole lot. If anything, he just needs to calm down and learn from this game, because the one-loss Auburn team absolutely,
yeah, they lost
a really
to
big chance to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, they lost to a team in the East, so it's not it's going to affect
the
their
mind
SEC
you.
record. Yeah, I mean, like Kirk Herbstreit said on game day, he was like, if this was in Jordan Hare Stadium, I'd pick Auburn. If this was neutral site, I'd pick Auburn. But it's in the swamp, so I'm picking Florida, and so that's who he went. With.
Right. And I've said, like, in previous weeks on this show, and said that Auburn is usually a team that is every year is very good at one point and very mediocre at another. They go through their slumps, and it's just sort of when are they going to go through it. Maybe this is their slump. Maybe they're going to come out next week and sort of have a similar performance.
I think they're off this
or
weekend.
Maybe it may come at a good time for them. But yeah, I mean, it would not surprise me if we see Auburn skid from here. Obviously, wish them the best and stuff. A&M's already played them, so what do I care? But it would not surprise me if you saw a good 3 or 4 game skid from here, and then watch them pick it up against Alabama, because they always do.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's always going to play Alabama tough because it's the Iron Bowl. It's one of the best rivalries in the country. And I do think Bo Nix is going to be very good going forward.
Yeah, 100%.
But I don't think that maybe, he's a true freshman, so he just got to work some things out. And, like, playing against SEC defenses it's no small task. So, and maybe Florida's defense is for real.
Hey, man, and I mean, not to sort of be a super big conspiracy theorist, but this skid thing may be real. I mean, you look at this, the next game, they have a bye week, okay, and then they go to Arkansas, and then they go to LSU. That Arkansas game is at Arkansas, and it's an 11 a.m. game.
That's a trap game. That is 100% a trap game. That's
a trap game, especially against an Arkansas team that put up as many points as they did against A&M. They put up more than Clemson did against A&M.
Yeah, we've talked about that game being cursed. So
we know that game is haunted, but you get the idea that that's absolutely a trap game. That's something that they're thinking, well, we're just going to walk in and beat Arkansas. I don't know. It could.
They should beat Arkansas, but Arkansas has a history of beating teams that should have walked all over them. So
exactly. So
it's
Arkansas fans, if you're listening, watch that game and watch with confidence.
Watch with what? Yeah, watch with confidence.
Relaxed confidence. That's what you need to watch it with. So,
speaking of Florida, because Florida is going to be, we're going to be talking about Florida a little bit later. We're going to talk about Florida's next opponent is my LSU Tigers, and I want to talk a bit about the game we had against Utah State. So we beat Utah State. The final score was 42-6.
Oh,
we started off very slow. Like we made some mistakes and we were going a little bit, Joe Burrow threw an early interception when we were on like the 5-yard line, but our defense clamped up and held them to a field goal. So at one point in the game, it was 7-6. But then we kind of took off from there. And a lot of people would see these early mistakes as cause for concern, but I'm going to tell you why they weren't, right? So let's just look at Joe Burrow's stats real quick. He was 27 of 38 passing for 344 yards, 5 touchdowns and an interception, and he had 42 rushing yards and a touchdown. It's notable, if you watch this game, LSU's offense played much more like a traditional LSU offense. We were running the ball, we were coming out and letting the play clock run all the way down, and it's the way you expect an LSU offense to run, right? So some people may think it's cause for concern how slow our offense got out. We've been scoring more points than this, but let me tell you why it's not a cause for concern. Because Coach Orgeron throughout the week said there's things we need to work on. We need to work on we need to work on open field tackling, which we did very well in this game. We need to work on the running game, which we also did very well in this game. Our running backs got a lot of carries. Joe Burrow had some rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. And we knew Utah State's game plan. They run a very quick, like if you watch their offense, it's very quick. It reminds me a lot of the old school Oregon offenses when they were at the top of their game, when they had like LaMichael James and DeAnthony Thomas and Marcus Mariota, and they're going down and scoring touchdown drives in 2 minutes or less, right? Like they come up to the ball, like they get a playoff and their guy gets up and tosses it to the ref, and then you look up and everybody's lined up again. And I do think Utah State's quarterback is a legitimate Jordan Love. I think he's a legitimate NFL talent. Like I think he could make it in the NFL if he gets put in the right system.
Yeah, he's your round 3 sleeper.
Yeah, he's going to be very good at the next level, or he might. He'll get a chance to start, I think, at the next level, but he might end up just being a career backup. But I do think he is an NFL caliber talent. So other LSU fans, listen, the way we played this past weekend against Utah State is not a cause for concern because I fully believe it was part of our game plan. We knew how fast their offense wants to go, so we slowed our offense down so we can control the time of possession, which we did very handedly. So
I mean, it's interesting that you say it's interesting that you think there would be cause for concern because as I look at this, I mean, they only put up 42. I think they put up more than that against Texas, who
45 against Texas, yeah.
Obviously would have a bigger, better defense than Utah State would. It's interesting that you say it's cause for concern because when I look at this, Joe Burrow is still averaging over 9 yards a pass, and he's spreading the ball out. There's 28 receptions in this game. That was over 8 different players.
Yeah, I mean,
the offense is totally fine. I think it has I think they were just in third gear instead of fourth gear.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we're going to be fine.
If this is their clock management style of offense, I'm confident that they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, they should be. Like, I think we'll be fine, and that's my whole message. Like, don't look at this slow start or the way our offense moved slower than we have been, because we've been averaging touchdown drives of like 2 minutes and 17 seconds.
Yeah, this seems to be an offense that just picks its speed.
Yeah. And not to take anything away from Utah State, but we could kind of pick our speed in this game. Like, I think Utah State's a good team. It's just going against an SEC team, a Mountain West team against an SEC team there's going to be a lot of overmatching there. So I don't know. It's going to be very.
It's interesting. there was a quote by Tiger Woods a long time ago, whenever he was sort of at the top of his youth and the top of his success. He said something at one point. They were asking him sort of what his mentality is going into a tournament, and he says every time I show up, I look at the scoreboard to see where I'm at, and before I even get to the clubhouse, I've already got a score in mind. Like he was like, I need to shoot about a 68 today. I need to shoot about a 66 today. I need to shoot, whatever. And I really think this is kind of how the LSU offense is, and they can just say, all right, we need to take about 3 minutes off the clock. We need to take about 5 minutes off the clock, and they can just do that.
Yeah. In this game, this season we've been averaging about 2 minutes and 17 seconds of scoring drive. We had a few of our drives in this game went over like 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, and that's impressive to be able to do that.
So
because a lot of offenses will – Kevin Sumlin's offense at A&M was always great whenever it was going that pace. But the reason things started to fall apart is they could not, for whatever reason, if they slowed it down too much, the whole thing fell apart.
Yeah. Just
because they were relying on the tempo so much to sneak guys out and get people open that by the time they slowed things down, obvious. So that's the trick to it. I don't know how LSU is doing it, if they're just really covering up their looks that well, or if Joe Burrow is just that good of a quarterback, which I think has a lot to do with it. Special team, man. I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what Florida does, because if they are for real defense and they really did knock down Bo Nix like they did at home, then they should be able to do something similar here. Yeah. But we'll see. I think this game will probably, if Florida's for real, this is going to be a 20-something point game for LSU, not a 40-something point game.
We'll get into that in a little while, but for sure. I know Florida and LSU play this week. Game day is going to be in Baton Rouge. And there's a possibility that I could go to game day because me and Brianna are going on vacation next week, and we're going to Florida, so we're going to be passing right through there. So
yeah, you'll be up and down. So yeah, you absolutely could.
Yeah. But yeah, we haven't really worked out all the logistics of our vacation quite yet, but there's a chance we could go. I don't know if we're going to, but it'll be fun. It'd be cool to go to game day twice in 1 year, both for games that LSU is a part of. So,
that really would be. I mean, that'd be the full gauntlet right there, dude.
It would. So, but yeah. You got anything you want to get into? I see you got something in the notes right here. You kind of talk about a little. I was
gonna. It's just sort of a little. A fun little question I kind of thought of here. In your mind, if there was one factor, and I don't want like a whole spiel of like 8 different things, like one single factor that you have to pick that separates a good team from a great team, what would it be and why?
Preparation, 100%.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, because there's this whole thing of I was in band in high school, and Mr. Levan would always tell us to practice. He would say, because all the times you're not practicing is the person you're trying to beat probably is practicing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's something along, and I don't really subscribe to that whole thing. Like if you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're practicing, you don't have to wear yourself out to practice. But I do think it's 100% preparation. There's other factors in college football that go into what makes one team better versus another team. But if you have a good game plan and your players are prepared to execute that game plan and things go your way, I think any team could beat any other team. And obviously that's true, but I think it comes down to preparation. And that goes that's all levels of football. That's high school, college, the pros. I think that goes across the board. So I definitely think it's preparation is what makes one team better than another.
I think that is top 3 because preparation is everything. The game is won before the game starts. Yeah. In a lot of cases, and so I agree with you there. The factor that I would pick would be the ability to improve and adapt as the game continues. And what I mean by that is, you looked at these last couple games this weekend, and there were teams that got out to slow starts. You saw LSU; they got out to a slow start. Texas got out to a slow start. I think they were tied with West Virginia. West Virginia was up on them going into the second quarter. And there was one more game that I saw like that. In Oklahoma, obviously they started out, and Kansas looked like they were going to do something for a minute. To me, it's the ability for a team to come out and adapt and get better as the game goes, and that's one reason that to me this is something that Nick Saban is. He's always been able to adapt as the game goes on, because there's been several times where you have told me, I mean, against any opponent, against LSU, against Auburn, against any team in years past, is the ability to go into the half, right, and not either be up a little bit or be tied or be down by a little bit, and always come out and make necessary adjustments. You saw it with A&M and Clemson. A&M was hanging in there. They were playing very good defense against Clemson. They were able to stop the run because they were controlling the line of scrimmage. They were winning in the gaps. And so what they did to adjust is they threw out to the sides, and they gave like some of these little out routes. I forgot exactly what it's called. There's a term for it, but you just throw the wide receiver, you sneak some guys out to the right, and then you just essentially run on the perimeter instead of running up the middle.
Like a screen pass.
Like a screen pass, but out to the side, and it's usually to the running back or something along those lines. But things like that, to me, it's always been the ability to get better and adapt as the game goes on, because to me, that means that you understand your opponent. And when you can do that, I think that you're going to go a long way.
Yeah, and I would make the argument that what you just said also falls into the line of preparation, because being able to adjust and being able to adjust to what's happening also goes down to your preparation, because
preparing for particular scenarios.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of one and the same, but I definitely think preparation is top 3, especially when it comes to college football. I think preparation is top 3. I think there are probably other factors that go above preparation specifically for college football. But that's just me. That's an interesting thing to talk about. That's because we could I think we could talk about that for days, and
that's a whole podcast on its own.
Yeah, that definitely is a whole podcast on its own.
That's something a couple weeks ago that you wanted to talk about, but just did not get brought up. So if you want to mention that now, we can.
Yeah, it's just De'Aaron King, the quarterback at the University of Houston, who I've said I'm a fan of. He made the decision after 4 games into the season he is a senior this year, but he is going to redshirt the rest of this season and come back next year. And he made that decision. They started off 1-3, obviously, and I guess De'Aaron King, he wants to have a better shot at having a good season to like improve his draft stock. But this is kind of unprecedented. We've never seen another player do something like this. And like obviously we could get into like the transfer portal and all that type of stuff, but that's a whole other show in itself. But like, what do you kind of think about this whole decision? Like, do you think this is good or bad for college football? Like, what do you think about this decision?
He's redshirting his senior year and going to come back and play for U of H next year.
Yes, he's going to redshirt the rest of this season and come back and play for U of H next year, which is what he has said. Now, whether that is actually the case, because there's been some speculation that he might transfer elsewhere, but that is right now from what we know, what he has said, that's going to be the case. He's going to redshirt the rest of this year, and he's going to come back and play for U of H next year.
Interesting. And here's what I think about that, because the way I look at it, I compare it to if he was transferring, right? So to me, it's almost as if he's saying, this is not the ideal scenario for me to make myself or my future. I'm going to take advantage of a rule that I have access to, and I'm going to try to make the best of it. And to me, I compare it to transferring. Like if he's doing this and saying, look, I'm not transferring out, and I know he hasn't specified. I'm just saying hypothetically, if he were to just come back and stay, I mean, that's essentially just being transferred into the next year. I mean, if you think about if you think about Alabama, if Jalen Hurts had done something similar and said, all right, you know what, I'm going to let Tua have his time, I'm just going to essentially stay back and practice whenever Tua is gone, because we know Tua will be gone this year. Jalen Hurts could come back and played. But you see what I'm saying? Like it's sort of, you treat it like it's a transfer, but you're sort of transferring to next year's that team. You're not transferring out; you're just transferring time. I'm cool with it, especially if it betters the future.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with it, and I can't make these decisions for these players. Like, I'm just a fan of college football, so these are like 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. And we say kids, that's an adult age, but you know what I mean. Like these are younger people than we are, and if they're making decisions that they feel is the best for their future, I can't fault that. Whether that be doing what D'Eriq King is doing, or whether that be transferring, or anything like that. Because if you look at it, there's also a wide receiver from Houston that's doing the same thing. And if you read about it, there's a lot of players were offered this option for Houston, right? So D'Eriq King took it, a wide receiver took it, and I think a DB took it as well. But next year they got some people coming in, they got some recruits coming in, they got some transfers, and Dana Holgerson's going to be able to get his system in. So I think they're just looking ahead to the future, and they want to make it better they want to make it better on themselves and better on their recruits to get this system in place and have a better season. But I'm all for it. We've never seen somebody kind of quote unquote take advantage of this rule in this way, but I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm cool with it. And it's funny. Callie and I were watching Kansas City last night. We were watching Patrick Mahomes, and I remember looking at her and saying, like, Patrick Mahomes is so good. Had he been somewhere besides Tech, he very well could have won the Heisman. And I really do think that your circumstances of where you are, it really, really improves. Because it's easy to sort of go to like a smaller school and get picked up by the giants like Daniel Jones, and again, like there are paths to success everywhere, but you have to find what works. And if that means going to a JUCO or a smaller school and then getting drafted later, great. If it means transferring to a bigger school where you can get more spotlight, great. I don't know. I'm okay with it, because to me, college football for the fans is magic, but for the kids, I really do think it's a way to get to the next level. Yeah,
100%. Texas Tech runs the air raid offense, and they had, I believe when Mahomes was there, Cliff Kingsbury was still their coach.
Yeah,
so
it was him.
You put any quarterback in, like you look at all the Washington State quarterbacks that go through Mike Leach's system up there in Washington State. Like, you put any of them in that system, they're going to thrive, just because the air raid system creates so many yards and so many touchdowns because you're throwing the ball so much. And obviously you can have good running backs in an air raid system, but the quarterback and the receivers are going to be the one who shine the most.
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, you want to go somewhere that, number one, you can shine as a player, but number two, that you can develop. Which is why I think, especially under Kevin Sumlin, whenever he was at A&M, it was really, really hard to get a lot of top-tier running backs. It's much easier to get running backs to go to Georgia and Alabama and places like that where,
places that run like a more traditional offense.
Right.
And they're gonna, it's gonna be even between throwing the ball and passing throwing and passing are the same thing, Spencer.
Yeah.
Between passing the ball and running the ball, it's going to be relatively the same thing.
Between running the ball and rushing the ball, don't you get it?
But yeah, it's going to be the same thing with these kind of offenses. So it's interesting to talk about,
big time,
and it's definitely an interesting thing. Let's talk about some games, Daryl.
We've got some big ones this weekend.
Yeah,
this is the week Titans across the country.
This is the weekend when
this is the weekend you don't schedule weddings.
You should never schedule weddings on a Saturday between August and January, but That's just me. Jack.
Oh, well. Yeah. You did it too, dude. You did it opening weekend a couple years ago.
Look, we're not talking about me right now.
I did it in May. I don't want to hear it. So,
Yeah.
All right, my guy. Tell me about Virginia and Michigan. Virginia and Miami. I don't know why I read Miami as Michigan. Virginia and Miami. Is Miami going to do anything here?
I doubt it. Friday night game. I mean, they're in Miami, nationally televised on ESPN, but Virginia's really good and Miami's really not. You know, I hope Virginia keeps doing good. So,
yeah, I mean, I have a soft spot for Miami just because they're just a history team, you know. But yeah, I think Virginia gets it done even at Miami.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say Jack so loud a minute ago. I realized that was probably louder than
the audio capture just has like a mountain on it now.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Virginia gets that one done. Tell me about number 23 Memphis at Temple.
This will be a fun one. I think Memphis is going to get it done, but this is going to be a closer game than it looks. Temple always shows up in games like these. It's an 11 a.m. game. They go to Temple. A couple things can go wrong or right depending on which side you're on. Temple could win this game, but I think Memphis wins it late. You're going to see another get down to the wire game that goes into the fourth quarter. I got Memphis by 3.
Yeah, Memphis by like I think Memphis is gonna win, but Temple's in Philadelphia. It might be a little cold. They're gonna be up north. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff. So I think Temple will come out ready, but I think Memphis adjusts and gets it done. But Temple's 4-1. They beat Maryland after Maryland was turning other teams into asphalt, and then was kind of good, and then they really weren't. But somehow Temple lost to Buffalo by...
Temple lost to Buffalo 38-22. That is the highest, that is the only time this season they have allowed a team to score over 17 points on them.
Yeah.
They held Georgia Tech to 2, and then they held 3 other teams to 17, 17, and 12. So Temple's defense, for who they are, is very good. Yeah. So I think Memphis is going to have their hands full again. We talked about it earlier. Is Memphis going to be able to adapt to some of the looks the defense is giving them? Yeah. I think that if they do, they're going to have a much more successful second half. I think the Temple is probably going to maybe even have the lead going into the half. Yeah. But Memphis will have to make some big adjustments because this defense is for real. Also,
it was hilarious between Temple and East Carolina's game this past Thursday. The Temple had the ball, and it was like close to the end of the game, and the lights went out in the stadium. And like, if you watch the call, it's funny because Pat McAfee. I don't know if you know who Pat McAfee is. He was a punter for the Colts for a long time, but he does like comedy type stuff, and he has his own podcast. But he's a really funny guy.
Citizens of Gotham.
Yeah, but he's a really funny guy, and so he does commentary for these Thursday night games sometimes, and he started singing that Journey song after the lights went off. It was really funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. I like it a lot. So
let me hit you with something. A situation that I like to call far-fetched. Mm-hmm. What do you think would it take? What do you think what timeline would we be in if this Florida State team, which has struggled this year, and I mean struggled, is going to go into Clemson and pull out the upset?
I don't think it's that unrealistic because Clemson's playing like butt this year.
They're playing like butt for one game because they still have been awfully dominant outside of the UNC game.
Yeah,
but do they bounce back? That's the question.
I don't know. They had a week. I don't know. Did they have a week off? I don't think they played this past weekend, so they're gonna have a week off between that North Carolina game, and this Florida State game. Florida. We say Florida State's struggling and they're playing bad, but they're 3-2. Like, they lost to Virginia and Boise State, and Boise State's undefeated, and Virginia is a very good team. So, I think Clemson's having a bit of a down year. I still think Clemson wins this game, but I wouldn't be shocked if Florida State takes it to the fourth quarter and reaches out and bites them and gets them in this game.
Florida State has scored over 24 points each game this year. Even in their losses, they're still moving the ball. They're still putting up points. So yeah, I think there could be some early fireworks. I think this is a bounce back game for Clemson, though. You got a bye week. You're coming home. I think that they iron out some of these mishaps and some of these inconsistencies. Look for Clemson to win big here. But Florida State might do a little bit in the first half.
Yeah, and Clemson's defense hasn't allowed more than 20 points this season.
Yeah, they're the real deal.
Yeah, I think Clemson wins, but I think it'll be much closer than anybody's expecting it to be.
Right.
I saw an interesting kind of hot take on Clemson. This year's Clemson is going to be like last year's Notre Dame. Really easy schedule. They're going to coast into the playoff and then get blown out by whoever they play. Which I can see.
If something doesn't change, if something doesn't change, it would not surprise me to see that. Especially if they get like a Georgia or a Bama or a
because their next toughest game is going to be in a few weeks against Wake Forest, and we've talked about that game a little bit. Like they have 5 games between that game's not till like the middle of November, so they have 5 games to play between that game, and I think they win all of them because they have versus Florida State at home. They go to Louisville. They get Boston College at home. They get Wofford at home. And then they go to North Carolina State, and then they get Wake Forest at home. I think they win all those games, and then Wake Forest will give them a contest. But we can talk about that game when we get to it, obviously.
At big time.
But, yeah, tell me about newly ranked number 25 Cincinnati at Houston.
Ooh. I was not expecting you to ask me that one. When you said newly ranked, I was like, hey, Cincinnati and Houston. They're going to Houston, right?
Yeah, they're going to be in TDCU Stadium.
Give me Houston. I like Houston at home. I think if the Astros keep playing well, Houston will come out and be very pumped.
Well, the Astros lost 10-3 today, so.
Yeah, but I mean that was the game they were supposed to lose because that was against Charlie Morton,
former Astros player,
former World Series winning Astro pitcher, who just wanted to go home.
He pitched his behind off in that game.
Yeah, of course. And so no, I like Houston here. I just like Houston at home in general. Yeah. So, and I think although Cincinnati is good, I think that Houston's going to pull it out.
Yeah. I'll give me Cincinnati in this one, but not by a lot. Houston and Cincinnati always play each other tough. Cincinnati's 4-1. Their only loss to this season is to number 5 Ohio State, and Ohio State's really, really good this year. They just came off a big upset against UCF.
They are coming off a pretty hot one, aren't they?
Yeah. Give me Cincinnati by like 10. Like I said, I'm a Houston fan, but we're having a down year this year. So give me Cincinnati by like 10, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, and I'd take Houston by 10. We just totally disagree, but hey, that's okay. Yeah. Makes for an interesting show.
Yeah, it does make for an interesting show. One of us needs to go through all our picks and see who's winning, see who's losing, see who's got the most right.
I'm finishing up a video this weekend, so I might spend and I have a lot of time to myself Saturday, so I might actually do that. That sounds like fun.
That does sound like fun. I was thinking about doing that too.
So we'll split it up. We'll work it out.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting game, a little sleeper you may not be aware of. Texas Tech and 22 Baylor, number 22 Baylor at Baylor. Baylor's 5-0. They're looking like the only hope behind Texas and OU to win anything in the Big 12. But Tech coming off a very big win against number 21 Oklahoma State, who's no longer number 21 now, but big win there, and they were at Oklahoma State, I believe.
Yeah. No, they were at home. They were in Lubbock.
They were at home? Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Which is why they won, because it's hard to win in Lubbock sometimes.
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know what it is about that place. It's the dust in the air, I guess. But yeah, Baylor big favorites in this one, but I don't know, man. What are you thinking?
There's going to be about 150 combined points in this game, I'll tell you that much.
It's going to be a basketball game.
Yeah, this is going to be a basketball score for sure. Texas Tech and Baylor, one of those classic, very classic Big 12 rivalries. They're in Waco for this game, so that's why I'm going to pick Baylor by. Give me Baylor by about 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns, 17 points, something like that.
I get Baylor winning. I think it's gonna be closer than that. I think it's gonna be one of those last minute touchdowns. Wears some of their like really gaudy uniforms. They're like highlight colors. If they wear like all yellow with some like green trim, Texas Tech's gonna lose bad.
Yeah,
just because it'll.
I'll let you know what they're wearing this week because they'll announce it sometime, and I keep up with uniforms.
Yeah, I've always liked Baylor's uniforms. I don't know,
yeah.
Always been very impressive.
Well, they switched from like old gold to yellow, which I'm in favor of, and now they have all green, all white, and all yellow, which I'm totally 100% on board with. And they've taken like their like those weird stripes they used to have on their pants, and then like those. They had those like bear paws on the shoulders of their jerseys, which was cool. But yeah, I like the uniforms this year. So, and also shout out to your stepfather, who's a Baylor fan.
He is a Baylor fan. He's a Baylor grad.
Oh, he's a Baylor grad. I was unaware that he went to Baylor.
Yeah, man, he did. That's where he got his master's at.
That makes sense. So, yeah, shout out to him.
Props to him. Giant.
He
crippling student loans.
Yeah,
Baylor's private and not cheap.
Yeah, he taught me history my sophomore year of high school.
Yeah. He beat me in NCAA once. Fun fact.
That's really good. That's funny.
It's really bad. And I wasn't even trying. Like I've let him win before, but he legit beat me that time, and I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. So let's get into some of these bigger games, Daryl. Tell me about. Number one,
cut
Alabama.
the foreplay. What's some big games?
Yeah, tell me about number one Alabama at your number 24 Texas A&M Aggies.
Let me tell you about this game because I've in my mind going into the season, I thought this is a year we have a real chance to beat Alabama, not because of the factors that you would think. Not because Kellen Mond was going to be good or whatever, not because Alabama was going to be down. All those factors are definitely there. But to me, I was under the impression that like last year, we were going to make Kyle Field we were going to make Kyle Field legit. It was going to be like the Death Valley of Texas. I really thought it was going to be the best stadium in the state, and it was going to be an environment that's incredibly difficult to come play in. And then Auburn walks in a couple of weeks ago and just makes it a joke. So, with that being said, that was my biggest factor going into this. And since it's a 2:30 game, it's the 2:30 game. If it's a night game, it's different. The 2:30 game, I don't know. I think it's going to take some magic. And the reason I'm saying all this is because it's going to take some magic. I think on their best day, A&M keeps this within 10, but they need some magic to go any further than that. I think A&M will have a second quarter. They'll come out and they'll try to make a little push, but Alabama's going to outpace them. I got Alabama by about 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Alabama too. Obviously, we both follow Texas A&M. We're both Texas A&M fans, but it's weird because Alabama is Texas A&M always seems to play Alabama tough. There was that one big blowout a few years ago, but other than that, Texas A&M keeps it really close. They always keep it close with Alabama. But I just seeing the way Texas A&M has played this season, if they can iron out some of their mistakes that they've made, and they can play, I think that they can play well on defense. I think they can keep it close, but I still think Alabama gets them. So give me Alabama by 10. Although I don't want to say that.
One stray glimmer of hope here, funny enough, is that yards. The defenses for Alabama's defense is allowing about 190 passing yards a game, and so is A&M's. Mm-hmm. Alabama's defense is also allowing about 134 yards a game. A&M's defense is allowing about 108. Keep in mind the opponents that both teams have played this year. A&M has had to play number 8 Auburn. They've had to go to Clemson. I think that maybe there's a little glimmer of hope there. I don't know. I think if they keep it close going into the half, that's going to be their only hope. But they cannot get behind early, because if they do, it's game over.
Yeah, this is that week where like all the big games come out. This where we start getting like these very serious games. But this could also be what I like to call Blood Week, which is where everybody gets upset.
Week, is that what you called it?
Blood Week. Yeah, this is the week everybody. This could be the week everybody gets upset. We haven't really had any big upsets this year. You know, we're getting into fall. The air is changing. The weather's changing. It's starting to get cold. You know, this is the week that could be hashtag upset Saturday, hashtag, you know, Blood Week type of week. If, you know, one or two things go right. Man. Yeah, one or two things go right, several teams could get upset.
And you know how it is. Like if you beat Alabama, no matter where you're at, if you beat Alabama, your season is saved, you know?
Yeah. I have this really controversial opinion that no matter what your ranking is, if you beat the number one team, you should become the number one team for a week.
It should be like number one hot sauce.
Yeah, number one hot sauce, 100%. Like,
yeah, I hear that.
It would never work that way, but like if you beat number one, you should be number one for like 5 minutes. You know what I mean? You get to be number one you get to be number one after the game all of Sunday, but when the AP rankings come out on Monday, you're wherever you're supposed to be. So
yeah, big time.
But yeah,
well, my man, it's time. Let's hit the Red River rivalry.
Number 6 Oklahoma versus number 11 Texas. This is always a good game. You know, historic rivalry, probably like the 5th best rivalry in the country. Big offenses. I think this is going to be a very high scoring game. Jalen Hurts is playing out of his mind this year. Sam Ehlinger is also playing very well this year. Texas beat Oklahoma last year, and then they played again in the Big 12 championship, which I don't think they should ever do. I don't think two teams that have already played each other should play each other in the conference championship, which is why the Big 12 needs to add 2 more teams to go to divisions, but that's that's a whole different conversation. 11 a.m. kickoff on Fox. Give me Oklahoma by a touchdown, because Jalen Hurts is playing out of his mind and his confidence is crazy. They asked him about this game. He said, "I've played in the Iron Bowl. I think I'll be okay." So
I love that, man. Look, I understand he's been a quarterback for both of the quintessential college football bad guys. Mm-hmm. He's a bad man. I really like Jalen Hurts. He's a class kid, and I wish him nothing but the best. This is one of those games, man. If you look at it on paper, this is allowing 441 yards a game, their defense is, and then Oklahoma is allowing 346. About 100-yard difference there of who's allowing what. Jalen Hurts obviously is very mean and nasty on the offense. Mm-hmm. On paper, this is a game Oklahoma should win by 2 scores, especially with as many starters as Texas has out on defense, and a few on offense as well. Mm-hmm. They're down. To get into playoff, they're going to have to beat Oklahoma twice. I mean, let's just cut right to it, because they're going to have to play Oklahoma again.
And they're not going to beat Oklahoma twice. It's not going to happen.
Oklahoma twice. So I think Oklahoma wins this game by 2 on paper. But what have you always told me about rivalry games?
Throw stats and records out the window.
Because you never know. So yeah, this is a game that Texas could very well come out and make a big statement.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's exactly what you'd want if you're a Texas fan. So, yeah, this will be a really fun game to watch. I think Oklahoma is going to win it. My money, but my gut says that Texas may make this more interesting than we think.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be a close game the whole way, but I think maybe Oklahoma, Texas is driving and they catch a pick or force a fumble, and then the final score, they're up by 10 or 2 touchdowns. But when really they were trading blows the entire game. So this is also my recliner game of the week, because this game is always fun.
Yeah. Well, and the difference maker in this game is going to be the Texas defense, because it's going to be I have no doubt the offenses of both teams are going to do the offenses of both teams are going to take advantage of what the defense gives them. I think the offenses for both teams are about on the same level. I think that the difference maker in this game is going to be what defense allows the least amount of exploitable looks.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
These are not offenses that make those kind of mistakes.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be a very good game. And then very good game, but give me Oklahoma.
All right, and then let me ask you about the. Oh, actually, no, I asked about the last one. You asked this one.
Let's talk about number 10 Penn State and number 17 Iowa. Big game in the Big Ten. Penn State's playing really well this year. Who you got?
I like Iowa. I think that this is a game where they come in, and this is a game where they have a big opportunity to move up quite a bit, especially against. And they're at home. I like Iowa in this one.
Yeah, Kinnick Stadium's a tough place to play. They're going to do that wave. They're going to wave to all the kids in the hospital before the game. Team's going to come out fired up. I think Iowa's defense is playing great this year. They held Michigan to 10 points, which is, I mean, it's Michigan, which isn't that hard to do this year. But they only scored 3 on offense. So I think if their defense can play the way they did against if Iowa's defense can play the way they did against Michigan, if they play that way against Penn State, I think Iowa will have a very good game, but they got to get their offense going. But I do think Penn State is for real. But because they're playing in Kinnick Stadium in Iowa, give me the Hawkeyes by a touchdown.
Yeah.
Low scoring, very defensive, scrappy, classic Big Ten game here.
Big time.
Yeah.
Well,
we've arrived.
Your Tigers are going to go gator hunting this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Number 7, Florida. Number 5, LSU.
A final score with no other information, and then tell me the information.
Do you want my my objective final score, or do you want my biased final score? Because I can give you either one.
Give me both. Just specify which one is which.
Objective final score. Because I do think Florida's defense is for real. But LSU's offense has been great this year. Objective final score. Give me like 38-17 LSU. I'm not necessarily a believer in Florida's offense, and I think Kyle Trask's leg injury that he sustained against Auburn may be a bit of a test, maybe a bit bigger of a problem than it happened to be.
Some of the wind out of that offense.
Yeah. I mean, they still ended up winning the game, but my biased final score, give me like 50 to like 10 LSU, like 55 to 10 LSU, because the way, our offense has been playing crazy this year, and our defense is also really good. So, and Florida's offense has struggled a little bit, and I don't know what Kyle Trask's situation is going to be. So if they're down to a third string quarterback, then I think LSU gets this done. It's going to be a night game in Death Valley, and objectively, I do think LSU wins this game simply because Gameday is going to be in town. It's a night game in Baton Rouge, and Death Valley at night is the wildest atmosphere in college football, bar none. So I think LSU gets this one done.
Well, you make some very solid points. But if I'm being honest with you, man, I got to hit you with the not so fast. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going out on a bit of a limb here. Florida, I think, is somehow going to pull this out. And here's my crazy reasons why. Number one is that Florida has been in a lot of adversity this year, right? So they had their opening game against Miami, which had just ridiculous. Everything about that game was off the wall. They had their game against Kentucky, which obviously did not go well for the majority of that game, but they had the oomph to come out and pull it off in the end. They go to Auburn, shock everybody. Did they go to Auburn? No, they had Auburn at home. They had Auburn at home, shocked everybody.
Which is why they won, because they were in the swamp.
Right, and that's a big part of it. I think this is a game that LSU is going to win 8 times out of 10. All right? I think this is a game that LSU wins the majority of the time. I just think that this is a Florida team that also is going to do 2 things. Number one, it's going to be the first true defensive test that LSU has, because we could talk about Texas and how they're the quote-unquote DBU, the Big 12, whatever. I'm not buying that. Texas's defense is good, but it's not good enough to stop this particular defense or this particular LSU offense. I think Florida is the first real test for Joe Burrow this year, provided they don't have all their Miami game PIs. I think that, number one, their defense is for real. And I think that number two, this is a team that's faced a lot more adversity this year than LSU has. Because of that, I think this is going to be one of those 2 times out of 10 that they win. I'm taking Florida in a very close one, maybe even overtime. They're going to win by a field goal.
I mean, that's fair.
Get me wrong. I think LSU. I think the smart pick is LSU.
Yeah.
I think that again they're going to win the majority of the time. But this is a game that Florida can win. And I got a feeling they will. I got a feeling.
Yeah. Florida beat LSU last year. LSU was ranked number 5, but we did play them in the swamp last year. I think. Yeah, we had to play them in the swamp last year. That's fair. Your analysis is fair. I'm not tripping on that. But Florida.
And to be honest, I had to make the show a little interesting. Like we can't just sit here and just hype up LSU the entire show. We gotta have a little controversy.
Yeah, no, I got you.
We gotta have something. Let us know in the comments. Am I crazy or is Spencer? Am I crazy or is Spencer crazy? Like who? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, but Florida. Welcome to Death Valley.
Dude, I think it's
the place where opponents' dreams come to die. May God and Mike the Tiger have mercy on your soul.
You can take Spencer away from LSU game, but you can't take the LSU game out of Spencer. He stays like this sometimes, like it just comes out. Anyways, 100%. Let's get to something even more controversial. Let's do the bottom of the barrel game.
Yeah. Tell me about 1-4 Colorado State at 2-3 New Mexico.
Just tell me. Colorado State all day. I got Colorado State all day.
Yeah, Colorado State, 100%.
Big time. Mexico's been disappointing me in these games.
Yeah. Tell me about Time Machine game, which is weird because this one's being played on Wednesday, which is this is weird. It's playing Wednesday night. Appalachian State at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette.
ULL always, every time I pay attention to a ULL game, they always show up and actually play. They don't always win, but they always show up and makes things interesting. Especially whenever they played A&M a couple years ago, and I was at the game, and that was like Kyle Allen's first time playing, and they made it ridiculously close.
Yeah.
These guys are the real deal. Anytime it's a Louisiana team, they mean business. I'm taking ULL.
Yeah. Appalachian State's undefeated, and Louisiana ULL is only 4-1 with their only loss being to Mississippi State. But I think Appalachian State gets this done. I think Appalachian State's really good, but it'll be like 10 because they're playing in Lafayette. They're playing on Cajun Field. So
ULL finna interrupt their season.
You think so? So, but yeah, man, that's Give me Appalachian State. Give me the Mountaineers.
I got something I need you to give me.
What up?
The uniform of the week.
Yeah, this past week Iowa State wore some really cool looking uniforms. They had on a white helmet with a black logo, black jerseys with white numbers, and then just solid white pants, black socks, and white shoes. It looked really good. They look like Oreo cookies. That's what they look like.
When I tell you guys that this was the most sensual uniform I have ever laid my eyes on, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but boy, they look good.
Yeah, they look like some Oreo cookies. I
wanted
to dip Brock Purdy in a big glass of milk and go from there.
Don't ever tell me you want to dip someone in milk again. Oh, I would chop our friendship in half so fast.
I mean, you wouldn't, but okay.
I wouldn't, but
yeah,
man, yeah, no, seriously, like, make sure, Spencer, when you put this link in the description that you put like this. Did you put the Instagram post, because it's a video that just sort of like a lot of nice cuts to it. Mm-hmm. They're creamy, man. I'm a big fan of that.
They look really good. So, but yeah, I think that's going to about do it for everything we want to talk about college football wise. But Daryl, we're starting a new segment this week. Daryl, tell me about something cool outside the world of college football.
Dude, the weather this morning. Are you kidding me? I walked outside and it felt like a living room. I was like, oh.
Really?
Seriously, man. I walked outside. I don't think the cool front's come down for y'all yet, but for us, like I was told there was a cool front, and I was like, I'll believe it when I see it. And I walked outside this morning, and I was like, ooh, and I had some goosebumps for a second, you know?
Yeah, that's the That's the best time of year. I like that a lot.
The wind like crawled up my shirt and like up my spine and kind of gave me a little shiver, you know?
Yeah. I don't think the cool front's gotten down here to us, but I'm glad it's there for y'all.
It should be on the way. Yeah. It'll be tomorrow probably. It comes through pretty quick.
So, and my something cool outside of college football, Daryl doesn't know I'm going to do this yet, but Daryl, aside from this podcast, makes very cool YouTube videos about video games, but he makes them through the lens of psychology and the way that video games can affect psychology and what they can do from a psychological standpoint. They're very high quality, very well edited, and you get to hear Daryl's smooth and buttery voice for 10 to 15 minutes when he uploads. So you should go check him out at Daryl Talks Games on YouTube. That was
so sweet, my man. You didn't have to do that. You shouldn't have done that.
I did it, and it was gonna come eventually. So, but if you're into video games, if you like video games at all, go check out Daryl's channel at Daryl Talks Games on YouTube. A very high quality, very well edited. You will be impressed because I know I always am. Every time he uploads, I'm like, yes, Daryl put up another video, even though we talk every day, obviously. And he was like, oh, I'm editing. But it's always a surprise. Yeah. So
say this, man, like I genuinely appreciate that. And to me, the reason I do it is because what I kind of learned is that I like video games and everything, but what I like more than that even is just the production. Like I just love putting things together, which is sort of why I really enjoy doing this with you. Even though I don't put near as much time into this as I probably should, I really enjoy doing this with you just because it's a production, like it's something that you get to put your name on and say like, I did that, and so I think that if things go well in the future, because the YouTube channel is rising, if things go well in the future and I suddenly find myself with more time and don't necessarily have to work quite as much, or if things go well in the future, I would like to spend a lot of time and sort of pour more into this show. And half of it also is to help you develop a little bit too, so that you can get better at sort of quote unquote creating content.
Yeah. And it's definitely helped me a lot. I really appreciate the fact that you agreed to do this. And we talked about starting this thing up last season. We could just never get it done. Right. But finally this year we got the wheels to the road and really took off with it. So, but yeah, man, I just wanted to tell them about that because I appreciate what you do. So,
hey, brother, you're the man.
Yeah. So, but that's gonna be about it for us, y'all. There, you got.
Thank y'all so much. Nah, that was about it, man. Thank y'all so much for joining us. It's going to be an interesting weekend, a lot of games. Let us know in the comments what game you're looking forward to the most. Who are you picking for Florida and LSU? Who are you picking for Texas and OU? Who are you picking for the time machine game? It's okay if you cheat because we know you're a time traveler. So
yeah. So, but yeah, man, that's it. Look out for on the Facebook page. That's a potential. I could be going to Baton Rouge for game day. So look out.
And you're also doing some polls on YouTube. On Facebook now as well, right?
Yeah, I've started doing a few polls. Who do you think's
gonna win?
Yeah, we had a fan of ours, a guy I met through a Facebook group about college football. His name is Jarmel. He came up with the idea of doing a poll for who wins the game instead of just me putting the post up saying who you got. So I'm gonna be putting polls on Facebook about all the big games this Saturday. So I will be traveling on Saturday. I will be on the road headed to vacation. But I will try to put up as many posts as I can. And I may already be on vacation. I may be where I'm going to be. But if not, I may end up going to game day. So look out for polls. Look out for the pictures that I might be taking. Yeah. So
be sure to like the page and participate in those polls. Make your voice heard. Prove us wrong because clearly we don't know what we're talking about. So.
And if you haven't already, I know we don't normally say this, but all of our content gets uploaded straight to YouTube. So if you want to know where it is, go subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Today we will break into Spotify, but
we'll get to Spotify and other podcast apps. But like we've said this entire time, we're not experts. So
we will be. We will be
one day. So, but that's going to do it. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks.